Hello and welcome to the Young Film Academy podcast, the essential podcast for teenagers looking to find their way into the creative industries. Now, we've got a very special episode this week. We are going to be listening to an amazing interview that was part of the Meet the Makers series, which is when Young Film Academy essentially got the other awesome people, some people that we haven't got a chance to speak to yet on the Young Film Academy podcast, but we spoke to them as part of a series during the first lockdown of COVID. So we brought everyone together and we got them to tell us about their experience on the industry, and we spoke to some amazing guests. And in this episode, we're going to be speaking to Dave Watkins. So this interview is conducted by James Walker, who's a co-host, as you know. But I'm just here to MC. I'm just here to introduce it. And Dave Watkins, just for those that don't know, is an amazing special effects artist who's worked on Guardians of the Galaxy and all sorts of things. He works on the practical side of things, which is super cool, and you're going to hear all about that and less of me. So there you go. Here you go. I'll see you guys soon.
Dave is one of the very best special effects supervisors in the film and television industry. He's worked on some of the huge, massive franchises out there, including Fantastic Beasts, James Bond, and Pirates of the Caribbean. Dave has been nominated for 2 BAFTAs for his work on Fantastic Beasts, and his films it's an amazing list of films, some of my absolute favourites on this list. So Dave has worked on Legend of Tarzan, Cinderella, Jack Ryan, World War Z, Pirates of the Caribbean, Children of Men, V for Vendetta, Kingdom of Heaven, Black Hawk Down, The Band of Brothers, the TV show, Gladiator, Saving Private Ryan. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. So we are hugely privileged to have him with us to share some of his knowledge. Welcome, Dave.
Hi, how are you doing?
Hello, Dave. Lovely to have you with us. And what a selection behind you on your wall. Are these your awards, or are these just movies you've worked on?
These are actually snippet. They're put together pictures from films that I've worked on with film cells from the cutting room that are backlit. So it's like a backlit wall, and the pictures are put up so you can, what you're seeing illuminated are actually film cells that were filmed while we filmed the movie, you know, and then wow. and they're put into some pictures, and I've had quite a few of them signed gone back afterwards where I've worked with the artist again and had them signed, you know. So,
many of our students, Dave, of course, when we ask them the question at Young Film Academy, Young Filmmakers, who's ever held a piece of celluloid, you know, an actual film strip? And the answer is not many. Days have changed, Dave, you know.
Well, there's not much of the pictures up on the wall there. I've not supervised any of those films because since I've been supervising, we've all been on digital. So there's not. I can't fill that wall up anymore because there's no more celluloid films. The idea's gone. You can't really put a flash card up there and put the pictures around. It hasn't really got the same effect.
Doesn't have the same look. It's brilliant. Well, Dave, as I say, thank you so much for taking time to join us and share your knowledge. There is so much to get through with all of this stuff, and I know we've got a lot of questions have come in already from some of our students who've been joining us in advance, as it were, and sending questions in. So maybe let's start, because some of the questions that have been asked have dealt with kind of this question of what exactly is a special effects supervisor. Uh-huh. So maybe, you know, because there are 2 different jobs, obviously. There's a special effects supervisor and a visual effects supervisor. So could you start, Dave, by maybe just telling us a little bit, what do you do in nice, simple terms?
Well, the clearest way that I could explain it is everything that's in camera that's an effect is covered by the special effects department, and everything that's out of camera is covered by the visual effects department. So on the shooting day, everything that we film on that shooting day that has special effects in is all me. Although nowadays you've got a lot of balls and markers and things flying around in camera. That's obviously not me. That's the effects guys getting their stuff down, you know. But everything that's filmed in camera, that's camera ready, that's classed as special effects, and the visual effects are all done in a post. Later on in other countries on computers all around the world, and then collated by the visual effects department.
So to summarize that, so essentially everything you do is done on set and it's the real stuff. So if I was standing on set and things are exploding or blowing up or flooding or raining, the real stuff is you.
Yes. Yes.
Whereas a visual effects supervisor would be dealing with everything that's done in post-production digitally later.
Absolutely. Yes, exactly that.
So I would say that's the fun stuff. You're doing the fun stuff, Dave.
Well, obviously I'm biased, but without a shadow of a doubt, it's boys with toys, really. Boys and girls with toys. It's we have a lot of fun.
Well, I think the easiest way to explain sort of what you do is to maybe take a look at some of the things that you've done. So I think you very kindly sent us a couple of reels of yours, Dave, that we're going to see in just a couple of moments. The first reel is all about vehicles. So can you just tell us sort of what are we going to see on this reel roughly? Like, what is your work with vehicles?
We normally work in conjunction with an action vehicle department, and these guys are the ones that provide all the vehicles themselves that you see in camera. Any vehicle that you see on screen is produced by the action vehicle department until it needs to do something other than drive down the road. Now, we are either creating pipe ramps for stuntmen to drive up and barrel roll. We're putting nitrogen cannons inside, flipping them over. We're exploding them. We're shooting them up with bullet hits. Everything that's on that list is down to us and the action vehicle. So we work quite closely with the action vehicle department and with obviously the stunt department as well, because once we've performed what we need to perform in the workshop and get all our stuff down, we test and make sure our stuff's good, and then stuntman gets in and obviously we don't get to drive the car. Stuntmen are the guys that are driving for in live action, and then we test with them, and when they're happy, we're happy with our testing. We then take it forward and put it on camera. So that's all happening months in advance of the shoot date,
Okay, well, great. Well, shall we then, let's take a look at this reel. So obviously we're going to get to the fantastic piece a little later in the session, but let's take a look at some of Dave's vehicle work, if we can. Let's take a look at the reel.
Now, obviously, you can't see the reel because this is a podcast, and that means it's audio only rather than video. So I'm going to describe it to you. Bang, bang, bang. Which essentially means there's lots of vehicles and they're doing some awesome stuff. It's got some Pirates of the Caribbean clips, some action movie clips where you've got like car chases through London, vehicles in water, like driving through water from some big disaster films, some Cinderella, like a thingamabob racing, like the thing that Cinderella rides in, that carriage. Lots of car crashes. Like, imagine lots of car crashes, double it. That's what you've just seen.
Fantastic, Dave. What amazing sequences. So I think that everyone gets a bit of a sense from that of the kind of work that you're doing. So let's just talk about a sequence there briefly. So that was World War Z with Brad Pitt. And was that when the truck that we just saw there coming down the street and sort of ploughing vehicles out the way? Yeah. What were you guys doing in that sequence?
So our main thing there is the preparation of the truck. So we've fabricated in the workshop a cow catcher, which is normally used on the front of trains in the northwest of America for cows that get on the track and train can't stop, so it just kind of kicks them out of the way. So we've built a cow catcher that fits onto the front of a truck, and we've got it over in Long Cross Studios on a big open area with cars all lined up, and we started driving into it and ploughing them out of the way. So, but without this, the cars they'll just stay level to the ground and just kind of concertina, and it doesn't look particularly exciting. So we were in Glasgow shooting that sequence in a real street, all locked off and properly prepared, and we drove that truck down the street and flipped those cars out of the way for real. It was and at the end of it, we've got a pipe ramp that the truck drives up into a truck that we've prepared by our breakaway department, which is all lightweight, and flexible enough that the truck will plough into it and not really hit too much resistance and look a lot more impressive than it would do normally. You know, that's part of us. That we're trying to beef things up to look a bit more impressive than they would do normally. You know.
And those cars that were being hit by the truck, I mean, are those real vehicles?
Real vehicles, absolutely. Yeah. We probably would have taken the engine block out of them. So that the vehicles that in that sequence would have all been prepped. So there's no fluids in them, there's no fuel. The engine block's taken out. So they're all lifted into position, you know. And there's some vehicles that there's people in driving. So it's worked out. By the time he gets to there, that one's going to flip. You're going to drive out of the way. Otherwise, it's just same. You know, you've got to break it up to make it look a little bit different. Otherwise, it's the audience catches on that it's a rig and blah blah blah. You know. And
how many takes can you do of a sequence like that?
Two takes of that sequence. We didn't have any more cars. And also it takes an awful long time to set that sort of thing up. We only had two trucks for the garbage truck to crash into. The truck that it crashed into, we only had two of those. So we only had two takes. We did a lot of rehearsals, you know, dry runs without the cars there, timing, and by the time that gets, because we had CO2 release in what was supposed to be a refrigerated truck that it crashed into. So there was a big release of CO2 when it gets hit by the garbage truck. So there's a timing issue there because there's only so much CO2 we had, and we couldn't just have it going all the way. So we had a couple of dry runs working out timing, and just to get everyone gets a feel for it. Camera gets to know where stuff is, and it's important to do those rehearsals. Otherwise, you don't want to go messing. There's a lot of money and preparation going into that, and to not have it rehearsed properly is just not sensible, you know. So very well rehearsed and went very well.
How many cars roughly would a production get through on a sequence like that?
You're probably in the region of 60 cars, I would think, by the time we've tested, and stunts have tested as well, because it's not just us. And then we come together and test. And then you've got your rehearsal, not so much in the rehearsal, but then your shoot days. So, you've got to be looking somewhere in the region of 60 vehicles, I would think, 50 to 60 vehicles for a sequence like that, yeah.
Wow. And I mean, part of my understanding of your job, Dave, is that, you know, you are tasked to make things look what I would call movie real. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And we'll talk about this later when we come to people being shot and things. I mean, it's not the same. You're not trying to make it look real, are you? There's a kind of like a different aesthetic.
Well, the funny story of perfect example, Private Ryan. All Steven Spielberg spoke about was real. I want real. I don't want big Hollywood. I don't want this. I want real. And so we sent him off a load of clips, and we beefed them up a bit, because when you show a bullet entering a sandbag, it's hardly recognisable.
Yeah.
So anyway, we went through this whole process, and Steven signed off on a load of squibs, and they were much less than we would normally be doing. So we turned up on the beaches in Ireland, and first couple of takes, he was going crazy. Where are the bullet hits? Can't see the bullet hits. And we're like, this is what you signed off on. I wasn't in the firing line then. I was just in the ranks, you know, doing all the graft in the background. But he was going crazy because he couldn't see the bullet hits. So we reverted back to what we do and make things look, in reality, when you're filming it, they look ridiculous. Big, but if you don't do that, it's not seen on camera, and going back to the Steven thing, looking at it as an individual bullet hit, it looked great to him, but when you've got everything else going on, you're just not seeing those squibs, and so they need to be larger than life. They need to be bigger than you would think, a lot bigger than you would think.
And how does that work? So if a director on set says to you, you know, when they're looking at it, you know, at the time, they just go, that looks ridiculous. Yeah. Do you sometimes have to sort of give them your experience of all of it and say, don't worry, it will look great, trust me?
Well, with that particular experience, it's no. We think it should be bigger, and everything that we said was no, because he just wanted everything to be so real. That was his focus. Was this? I don't want this to be a big Hollywood blockbuster film. I want it to be real. I want it to be gritty. I want people to be in the moment, and that's all he banged on about, was the reality of the realism of it, you know. So to him, he just wasn't taking that into the big picture. As soon as he watched playback, it was like, oh, right, I get it now. I'm not going to see that. I want real, but I'm not going to see the squibs unless we do the unreal with the effects. I can still be real with everything else. It's just I just need to beef the effects up a little bit. Otherwise, I'm just not going to.
I mean, I suppose that's the same for so much about filmmaking, isn't it? That you have to create unreality in some ways. You have to heighten reality to mirror reality.
Exactly that. Like there's many a times I see real snow, and I've just come back from Iceland after working out in Iceland. I'm thinking that doesn't look like snow. It looks nothing like snow. And then you look at our stuff, and that's what snow looks like. And you're like, wait a minute, that's real snow and that's fake snow. And yet my mind's telling me that they're the reverse, you know. So it's
amazing.
Yeah, strange phenomenon sometimes.
And then there was a clip there from a sequence in a film that is certainly very popular in my house. So it's the Cinderella, the sort of the latest version of Cinderella. Yeah. And that was the carriage is sort of falling apart there. What can you talk us through? What was your team involved in with that Cinderella?
So we built a bespoke trailer that housed there was 2 carriages. And we had our effects carriage that was camera ready, and we basically mounted the picture ready carriage on our rig, our chassis, for want of a better word. There was no wheels. We had the leather straps that were actually steel in effect on our one, to look like leather. I mean, you wouldn't know standing next to them, but they were made from steel. They were supposed to be leather. And we basically created a bucking bronco of a carriage that we towed all through Black Park, with stuntmen hanging off it gyrating and making all these strange movements as it was driving around, because as it was, we knew visual effects would be taking it over and doing all their magic afterwards. You know, we're just creating a platform for all the stuntmen to be on, put in basically the things, the elements that cost huge amounts of money to replicate, and sometimes even when they are spending huge amounts of money don't really look right, like humans, like stuntmen moving. And so those things that cost a lot of money, we did for real, flying around Black Park, and they just added all their magic that made it look that little bit better, you know. So
to explain that as simply, we've got basically, you guys have got a replica of the carriage that we see in the movie.
Yes.
But without wheels.
Correct.
And it's sitting on a sort of flatbed trailer.
Being towed by a tracking vehicle with like a camera arm on. So you've got the tracking vehicle behind, so the crane's doing this, filming it as we're driving along. Is that making sense?
Yeah, and then you've got the what we see in the movie as footmen.
Yeah.
Are in fact stuntmen.
Yes.
And your rig is it hydraulics? Like, how are you making the whole thing jerk so it looks like later it's falling apart?
We use pneumatics for this instance because travelling around with hydraulic power and that was a whole like a big mission, you know. So going with air, it's a lot easier to travel with the air and store compressed air on the vehicle you're travelling with. And we basically charged up vessels to with a large volume of air, and then that controlled the rams as we drove around. Yeah. Amazing.
Absolutely brilliant. Well, we've got so much to cover now. We're going to move on. So we've had a look at some of that's obviously cars is a part of what Dave does, but also Dave is well known as a man who makes things destruct, shooting things, blowing things up, etc. So we're going to take a quick look at a second reel showing some of Dave's pyrotechnics work. Just to note to those in our audience, this does feature shots that involve violence and some death. So if we do have some sort of younger members of the audience, it may be good to get them to look away just for this next reel, because some of it is quite visceral. So let's take a look at Dave's reel.
Again, you obviously cannot see with your ears unless you are a super-powered person, in which case maybe you can. Maybe you've got some kind of sonar or something. I'm not sure exactly that's how sonar works, but I know that Echo the Dolphin, for anyone that knows Echo the Dolphin, very much could see with sound. Anyway, there's lots of guns in this clip. There's lots of guns in some historical stuff. like gun holes ripping through stuff. Oh, what film is that? It would help if I knew. I can't tell. But a whole boat exploding, lots of exploding things, lots of bullet holes in things. It looks really cool. You are very impressed. You have seen some truly breathtaking visuals, and now you're ready to sort of continue watching. But there's also lots of recognisable material in here as well. More Pirates of the Caribbean and stuff like that.
Okay, it's safe to look again, everyone. So, Dave, again, some amazing work there. And I was very lucky many years back to work with you when you very kindly came and in a film that I was making, helped to shoot a man in the head and blow his brains across the room. So I've seen you in action, and the mechanics of this is amazing. I mean, maybe can you just talk us through in terms of, because obviously we see gunshots and people being hit by bullets in so many movies. It's so common. What roughly is the principle here to making it look good? Like, how does it work?
Again, it's being over the top, I think, really. And also, you're also in the hands of the rest of the team as well, the director, the person who's playing the stuntman. But from my point of view, it's I don't know, you're talking about bullet hits specifically?
If you're going to make someone look like they've been shot, like, can you just talk us, what is a squib, for instance?
Okay, so basically you'll start off with say you're getting shot today, James. Your lovely blue shirt. Wardrobe will come to us. We'll go to wardrobe approximately 4 to 6 weeks before we're going to shoot you. They'll give us the shirt that you're going to be wearing on the day. We'll take that back to the workshop, examine what the material of it's like, because we're going to have to burst through that material with a squib. So if it's a really thick material, we'll be on the other side. We'll sandpaper it down so we're left with the thinnest amount left. We'll then stipple that with a scalpel. So it's laid on a cutting mat, and a scalpel is literally, you're dotting it with the very end of a scalpel. So you're just breaking the material. And you can be on one circle for 20 minutes, half an hour, depending on the type of material it is. If you've got a deep woven material and it's hiding that, then you can be a lot more aggressive. But so you stipple the front of the material of the shirt that you're wearing. Then we'll have a leather pad with a lead square, exactly the same. And then we'll have a steel ingot with a little indent that holds the squib. Then we'll have a blood bag, and then that's a blood pack there. We then come that and we take that to the back of your shirt. You're then wearing that like that. You're protected by the leather, the lead, and the metal ingot, which stops any of the charge going your way. It's all going through the blood bag, through the shirt, hopefully onto camera if you get your stuff right. So that's the basics behind a squib.
And then it's a small explosive charge, essentially, that you detonate remotely.
Exactly what it is, a small explosive charge that we detonate, and can be detonated in numerous ways. Some stuntmen like to have their own initiation. Some actors like to do it themselves, have their own button if the sequence allows it. The majority of stuntmen are like, no, you do that, I'll do my thing. You just make sure you hit it on the right cue, and then we'll have rehearsals, rehearse, everyone happy, let's turn over.
Amazing. Wow, great. So I'm sure there'll be questions about this stuff, Dave, so we'll probably return to some of that. So I think we should move on to sort of some of your more recent work on Fantastic Beasts, because I know that some of our listeners out there love those movies, and some of the sequences are absolutely amazing.
Uh-huh.
Roughly, so first of all, let's just picture working on that production. So first of all, where was that shot, and what was the physical environment like?
That was filmed at Leavesden Studios, and at the time, the set that they built there was the largest set in Europe. We recreated New York, and it was it was at the time the largest set. I mean, that was a pretty impressive set. It totally immersed. I mean, Stuart Craig's production design is just it's a beautiful thing to be around. He's a fantastic designer, also a lovely man as well. But his work is, you just get immersed in the world. When you're there on set, our little touches, steam coming out the vents. You know, the costume department, all the costumes were spot on. The Model T Fords driving down the road, cobbled streets. It just, you get immersed in the world. It's fantastic.
And so talking Model T Ford, so I think you guys were involved in a sequence that involved, I think it's where the Obscurus is coming along a road, and it kind of destroys vehicles as it goes.
Yeah.
And I think it was intended, I think you mentioned it was trying to seem like a typhoon or something like it. And you guys, we're going to have a look at a clip in a second of sort of you guys working on these Model Ts. Can you just give us an idea of what the brief was for that sequence? Like, what was it your team was told that you needed to do?
Well, it was basically that. It was a tornado that was obviously it's not a tornado on screen, but the description for us was, think of a tornado, mini tornado that can change direction at any given moment, tearing through the streets, absolutely destroying the place. Everywhere it goes, it throws things up in the air. I mean, for us, it's happy days, you know. You've got a lot of work coming your way and a lot of fun, because you've got to test that stuff. You know, you've got to build, replicate. There's no 1926 cars driving around that want to be thrown around today. They're all, from people that own them, they don't want to lose. They don't want those cars thrown around. Do you know what I mean? They want to be looking after them. So we had to replicate all of those, replicating all the hand carts, the carts that the guy that's doing the newspapers is pushing down the street. We had those replicated in balsa wood, horse-drawn carriages that are taking meat and supplies down the streets. We had all those replicated in bolt. So that was difficult, doing that in a light version so it gets crushed, but it still had to work. They still had to pull it along. It still had to carry items, but it had to be weak enough so that when you bashed into it, that it wasn't strong and didn't hurt stuntmen and blah blah blah. You know, so yeah, lots of challenges.
Oh wow. Okay, well, let's maybe so actually before we have a look at the clip, how big was your team for special effects on that movie roughly?
I would have gotten up to at least 80, but touching on 100 on occasion, I would imagine. I had a big crew. Yeah, big crew, because a lot of decisions on those films are made last minute. So you don't get 3 or 4 months to prepare on things. You get a couple of months, and so you need to flood it with labour and work shifts, and you know you have 2 shifts working on occasion, a night shift as well, because there's just literally not enough hours in the day.
Wow. Okay, well, let's have a look then at this scene that involved the Model Ts for this scene with the Obscurus, and we'll maybe chat about it once we have a look. Let's take a look.
Okay.
This clip is super cool. What you're seeing is essentially a vehicle that's going to be in a film, like an old car that's going to be in a film, literally being constructed. So you're seeing it in a workshop space being built up. This is from the original Fantastic Beasts, I believe, and the Obscurus is destroying the things as it whizzes down the street. And like all the cars are rolling and turning, and you're seeing how those cars are built from beginning to end. It's very impressive. Once again, you're very impressed.
Amazing, Dave. I can't imagine how many cars you've destroyed in your career. That's a lot more cars there. So what were those obviously, as you say, you're making those Model T Fords to look like Model Ts, but when you say, what's the sort of special qualities that they need for them to be able to be thrown around in the way that you guys do?
Obviously, with budget restrictions and on this particular item, you're just not, normally we would just go and buy a load of scrap cars, but you can't just go and buy a load of scrap Model T Fords. So we had to build cars that were lightweight, incredibly strong, and that we could throw around on numerous occasions. Like we didn't want a vehicle that we could just 1 or 2 takes and then you're sending it down the scrapyard, because we didn't have the budget to make 20 Model T Fords. We had the budget to make 2 that we could keep on testing. So we devised a way. We literally took the car apart, molded individual panels of the car in polyurea, which is a very strong plastic material. Molded all the panels out of that, put them back together on a chassis that we've made, and then contacted a company that deals with Model T Fords only, and all the lights, the steering wheel, the window trim, all the bits on the outside that make it, that looks like a Model T, they're all real parts, but the actual chassis, body, I mean, there's no engine in it. We molded the engine so that as if a bonnet came off and you looked inside, you saw an engine block, but it weighed, I could pick it up with my fingers, It was because that was the key. One of the keys for us is keeping everything lightweight, because we've got to move that weight, and the heavier it is, the harder it is to move, harder it is to stop, harder it is to control. So everything about it becomes harder the heavier it is.
So it's kind of like creating replica, like life-size toys.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it, yeah.
That is amazing fun. There was another thing I heard that you were involved in, Dave, with Fantastic Beasts, that it was the creation of kind of almost like objects that the actors can interact with whilst they're acting, that sometimes then get replaced in CGI afterwards. Uh-huh. But there was something to do, was there I think it was an egg. Can you just talk us through that? What was that?
So in the sequence, the Niffler is chasing an egg around the bank. So we're looking for Eddie ends up holding the egg. So we're looking for something that Eddie can hold, that is the egg shape that Eddie can interact with. Eddie's very big on having something to interact with. He said, I know I've got all these creatures around me, but I need something that looks very, very similar to what the end result is going to be, so that I can do my thing, So we had an egg that he was going to be holding, that was replicating, that rattled and shaped and moved around, and as it did in the movie. But we had Eddie over. I think we're going to play a clip that shows it. We had Eddie over for a show and tell at the workshop, and out of that little half hour that we had, it showed. Well, we got out of it that we can use this egg as an eye line in the bank, and it's supposed to be the Niffler, even though it's a little bit confusing now. But that's the way it turned out. Was we ended up using the egg. We used it for the shot it was supposed to be used for, but we then also used it as an eye line for the crowd to follow while we filmed, as if the egg was the Niffler. Am I making sense?
Yeah. Well, let's have a look at it in action. So I think we can see a short clip of the egg that Dave and his team created, and I think we can see Eddie.
This is really cool. It's the egg that Eddie Redmayne has to chase, and it's sort of, maybe it seems like it's remote control, and it's sort of wiggling around in his hands. It's super cool. In Eddie Redmayne's hands, we're sort of seeing that work sort of backstage in sort of old school footage in a really cool coat. I'm not sure if it's Eddie Redmayne's coat or if it's a coat that he's worn specifically for the film. It's one of those sort of old style but feels modern, but no, it looks very much like his character's coat, but like a modern version. Don't really, this is not really what you want to hear, but it's really cool. It's a remote control egg.
So it was kind of that moment there where Eddie was supposed to be grabbing the Niffler, that he was, we can use this as an eye line. So yeah, it works well.
An eye line is something that the actors can look at whilst we're filming. We use that all the time, obviously, on set. Yeah. It's something that they can be pretending to look at when it looks like it's something else.
And the crowd also, because there was a lot of crowd there, trying to get all the crowd looking in the same spot at the same time is normally quite a hard thing to do. So the assistant director was happy.
Amazing. So before we throw this open to questions, which we're going to do shortly, because there's loads of questions coming in, I think it's sort of, I was trying to sum up your job, Dave, and I think I came up with it's part engineer, part inventor, and part artist.
Yeah, do you know, and some. It's it's pretty hard to put a cap on, because you just never ever know what you're going to be asked to do. You get asked to do the most weird and wonderful things. So yeah, it's that, and it's all of what you said. It really is. I mean, I'm blessed with my job. I really am.
Amazing. Okay, so we're going to start. And open up this to some questions. So, guys, there are loads of questions coming in here. So we will try and get round to it and get through them as many as possible. So, if we can try, Dave, to be maybe as sort of succinct in the answers as we can. Obviously, if it leads to a story, that's fine. But I do want to try and get through as many of these as we can.
Okay.
Let's start with, this is a question sent in advance by Ben Arnold, who's asking, in fact, about any good apps to create special effects at home. But I think that he's referring to sort of, obviously, sort of probably visual effects in terms of computer stuff. Is there anything that you've ever done at home that could be done safely that you know is something that you could point people towards, or a little technique?
To be done at home?
Yeah.
I think most of my stuff needs to be done by people who know what they're doing. It'd be dodgy for me to be suggesting to do things at home. Everything that I do should come with the marker, you should not be doing this at home. So it's not really, that's a difficult one for me.
Well, that's the perfect answer. So the answer is no, because it's quite the opposite. You should never be doing any of this at home, guys. I think it's a good tip. Okay, Brandon Toledo asks, did you study any particular subjects or courses in order to be able to work in your field?
No, I'm incredibly lucky. My father was an effects guy, and so I've known nothing but a film set since I can remember. Really, I was always taken to film sets of a weekend and school holidays, and spent many a time at Bray Studios in my school holidays. So no, it's not. There's not really. I was incredibly lucky in that respect.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, this is a question from Tilly Miller Comrie, who asks, how do you get interaction between CGI creatures and flowing natural substances such as fire or water? For example, in the scene from The Crimes of Grindelwald, where Grindelwald escapes in the Thestral carriage, was it hard to include water?
So, funny enough, when we filmed that sequence, there is no water. It's all done through visual effects. What we did was slowed everything down, and we hit the guys with wind. So hair comes up, floats, and it's not a heavy wind. It's not blowing the hair back. It's just enough to lift it, so it appears that they're under. And when you slow things down, it appears that they're underwater. It's very cleverly done, and it again worked out on the floor. There was no preconception of that. It was all, how are we going to do this? At one stage, because we had the carriage built in Poland, and when it came over, we had we had two gimbals that the carriages sat on for doing different things. And at one stage, we were building a gimbal, and we were going to dump that gimbal in the water, and we were going to have a whole water sequence, 2 or 3 weeks of shooting underwater, until visual effects turned around and said, can we try this process? And we did a test of, I think we did a 1-day shoot with all those tactics employed, and the end result was, wow. Even on playback, when we were watching it on playback, we were like, wow, that's without those guys messing with it, and it looked good, you know. So it was like, well, looks like all the waterwork's gone. Producers were very happy, because shooting underwater is notoriously expensive and takes a long time. So producers are very happy. They saved a lot of money by not shooting. But then again, visual effects is not cheap. So I wasn't in the accounts department, but I know they saved a lot of money by not having their underwater unit.
And I know that there was a scene, because you guys also do like fans, and that was one of the things you were talking about with, I think there's a scene where Newt Scamander, the Eddie Redmayne character, sort of is stroking the Occamy, or stroking a bird. And you guys were doing all the fans that made the visual effects later look good.
Yeah, well, and that's one thing that visual effects don't like doing, is the artist. They like doing everything around the artist. As soon as they start having to do something on the artist, it's money, and it's hard to look correct. It really is hard to look correct. Like someone's hair blowing. Like for the instance that on the clip, I don't know if we're going to see the clip, but where the Thunderbird comes in and flaps its wings, his hair flaps up, drops down, and then there's a light breeze in his hair. It's just that little. If you don't have that, it looks like he's on a stage. You know, he looks static. It looks like it's a staged performance. Whereas when you've got his clothes rustling, and it just, those little things stop the eye telling you it's not real. You know.
Right. So we're going to go and get a question now shortly. We're going to hear from her, hopefully. This is a question from Anna Poloniecki, who hopefully is going to ask her question herself. So Anna, we can hear you very shortly, so go ahead and ask your question.
How do you make all of the smoke?
Hello, Anna. So our smoke for interiors, when we're shooting on a stage, are made by an electric machine, and it's a mixture of glycol and water that we put through this smoke machine. It's heated up, and as it comes out of the machine, we have white smoke. And then we blow that around the stage with a fan so that it looks smooth and even. Otherwise, we get told off by the director of photography if it's not smooth and even. So we have to blow it around with a fan.
I love it. This next question, Dave, it doesn't come with a name attached to it, but I think it's a really good question. Do you ever fight with the visual effects department or producers about what you get to do practically and what they want to do in computer in post-production?
Yes.
That's a short answer.
It's a constant battle, especially as visual effects can achieve more for less money. As that process, as year on year, they can do more for less, which makes my argument weaker and weaker, unfortunately. But my argument always will stand that I consider, given the time on the shooting day, we're cheaper. There's certain things that we can't do, hands up. But one of the problems is unfortunately, directors like to do things later on. Do you know what I mean? The producers want to get the film shot, get it in editing suite, and let the director sort it out with visual effects. Whereas that doesn't necessarily help me. So yeah, it's a absolute constant battle.
Amazing. And Simone Burney asks, what special effect in a film took the longest?
Probably the pier on Tarzan. I think took the longest to test, prepare, test. Yeah, we've got it right. Now we can build it, because to actually build the pier itself, because it was like placing matchsticks down. They obviously weren't matchsticks. They were huge 12-foot by 12-inch sleepers, massive chunks of wood. But it was like placing matchsticks on top of each other, because the whole thing had to collapse. You start making things strong, and they don't look good when they collapse. They all bind together, and things slow down, and you want to drive things down so that it look fast and powerful. And so, that was incredibly a long process. I would say the installation of that would have taken somewhere in the region of 12 to 14 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then you only had one go at watching that bridge.
One go. That was a one-take wonder. There was no second take of that. There was no time to shoot it, no time to get it no time to put it back up and go for a take two. It's like, you've got one go at this, man. It better be good.
And it's an incredible sequence.
Yeah, no, it's very satisfying. Yeah.
There's a question here has come in about James Bond. I know you've worked on a couple of the Bond films. This question is, in James Bond, did you ever feel sad when blowing up the cars? I suppose this is someone who loves cars, maybe.
Do you know, my first day on Die Another Day, I shot, what did we shoot? I was shooting Lamborghinis, Ferraris. It's when they're in they're in the base, and he's escaping out of the base, and he's shooting up all these seriously flash cars. I hadn't been on any of the prep, so I hadn't prepared any of the cars. I was just brought in as a daily. And yeah, I was on the striker board that was setting all the squibs off. And yeah, it was quite surreal. There was a lot of money there down on that runway that we shot up. It was good fun.
Which is actually brings us to our next question a little bit, which is Brandon Toledo again asks, which production have you had the most fun with yourself?
Are we talking what type of fun?
What have you enjoyed the most? So I think you've mentioned to me before that you felt that sometimes being a technician, actually being kind of down there doing it, was almost more fun than doing what you do.
That's kind of why I'm asking that question. I think one thing you realise in life is that while you're in the middle of something that you find horrendously hard, you get to the end of it and it feels amazing, and you look back on the work that you achieved, and that would be World War Z. That was one of the first films that I supervised, and it was horrendous. The changes were crazy. It was a crazy film to shoot. But at the end, the sense of achievement was amazing. Now you convert that to like Black Hawk Down, when I was on the tools, we had the best time. I was flying around in helicopters with American Navy SEALs, doing 0G in Black Hawks, getting taken, me and another supervisor now, Steve Warner, me and Steve got taken on a death ride by these Delta Force in these little birds across Rabat, flying across the rooftops, like with about that much clearance. So I've had some fantastic experiences. So Black Hawk Down's a real memorable one for me. A real memorable one. Saving Private Ryan, again, the camaraderie we had with the Irish Army that were playing a lot of the soldiers during the shooting day transferred to those boys. Love to drink, man, and they were all local guys. They took us under their wing, and we had a lot of fun with the locals out there in Ireland when we shot Private Ryan. So I've got a lot of memories from a lot of films. Really hard to answer that question specifically. I could go on for hours. I'm probably boring you already.
Hardly. So this next question, I think it's a really good and valid one. A lot of our young people, when they start sort of trying to replicate stunt sequences and they do it at home, because of course you start, they might think that, so this is a good one to answer. Claire Bolton asks, do you ever use real bullets?
I never have. My father used to, and the only time that they would do would be to oh no, wait, tell a lie. Yes, we did. On Private Ryan, we not me personally, but the seniors had some material fired, like they had some wood that we fired real bullets. Because Spielberg was all about I want real, we got some real footage for us to replicate, because we had no real footage. There was no YouTube around then. You didn't go on YouTube and look at bullets going into different types of material. We had to go and film that ourselves. So that was filmed and we replicated that first. That was just linking into the Private Ryan thing earlier. And my father the same. He used to, because he was a shotgun carrier. I can remember going over to Bray Studios on one day on a Sunday and firing the shotgun into some metal. And I'm like, why are we doing this, Dave? Because what was he filming at the time? The Professionals he was filming with Bodie and Doyle, I think it was, wasn't it? George Cowley. But he had to replicate the shotgun hit, so we were filming.
On the whole, you never use that. So I think the point to make to young people, and be very clear on this point, is you don't use real weapons. You make everything safely, because of course safety is a big part of what you do, isn't it, Dave? Because you've got to do dangerous things safely.
In today's climate, it's unheard of. You would never in a million years be using any sort of live ammunition. If that occurrence came up, you would have an armourer that would come in, and that's their bag. I do not deal with anything that's real. Everything that I do is messing around. Even when that's wrong to say, because some of the explosives I use, they can quite easily kill you, but when I say messing around, I mean it's in a controlled manner. You know, everything that I do is a theatrical event. There's no realism to any of it. I've got a lot of admiration for the army and those guys, because they do it for real. I mess about.
So this next question comes out, which is sort of about how difficult these things are. So which scene? This is Paula Zick asks, which scene was the hardest from your point of view in Fantastic Beasts? So of the work in Fantastic Beasts, what was the hardest?
Hardest for me to achieve?
Yeah.
The chair was pretty hard work that Claire sits on, and when she's been when they're trying to wipe her mind, we built a rig that, how am I going to describe this? It's like a big donut that's got a chair in the middle. On a flat surface, the stuntmen wheeled her around, and then on the chair, the chair was on a hydraulic ram, but we didn't quite get it right. There was a bit of staging going on as it went up, so that was quite difficult getting that right in the end. That sequence with Claire, that's probably not a great example. I'm probably not answering that the best, actually. I'm sure there's many other jobs. I'm trying to think.
That's great.
The most difficult. Go on.
This
Sorry,
next question, this next question is from Max Phillips, who says, filmmaking is often about finding innovative solutions to difficult problems. What kind of innovative and perhaps bizarre solutions have you found to tackle a difficult problem? Can you think of anything?
In the clip you saw, the pyrotechnics one from Devil's Double with Dominic Cooper. So I go out there on a recce, and everything, and we go to Fort Rickarsley, where we're supposed to be doing a barrage sequence. There's supposed to be cannons firing. There's supposed to be an army front line, explosions everywhere. And when we meet the guy, yeah, we're going to be doing this. We've got exploded. Like, yeah, it's all fine. We turn up. I'm probably 4 weeks from shooting. We go to Fort Rickarsley, different guy. Explain what we're going to do. He's like, yeah, but it's all good, but you can't use any explosives. And we're like, yeah, right. And he's, no, I'm being serious. You cannot use explosives. And I looked at the producer and I went, what are we going to do? And he's going, well, you'll have to figure it out. So what we ended up doing was we did everything with air. All of that sequence, every explosion you see on there is all done with air, compressed air. And it's probably one of my most innovative, I would say, moments, because we used something that's called a Harvey wall banger. It was invented by Event Horizon, which is a company that we use a lot for any pyrotechnics that we use. We use those guys, a company called Event Horizon. They invent things for the SAS. And this unit is called a Harvey wall banger, which is used for a non-explosive wall entry. You basically put it up against the wall, fire it off, and it will blast the wall open with air. So we use it a lot for breaking stuff, is the best way to word it, you know. But we configured the Harvey wall banger in such a way into a mortar pot, upside down. But the processes that we went through, because it just wouldn't work because it sucks before it blows. And then and the diaphragm was getting seized. I'm not going to get too technical with it. We had a nightmare process of but about a week before we were going to shoot, we cracked it, and it looks awesome. And I'm really proud of the event. And that bang you see with Dominic Cooper is that far away behind his head with a wall exploding, and that wall is all foam bricks, and that's all in camera, no visual effects. And yeah, I'm very proud of that explosion. It's like, for the technical minded, it's pretty good.
Sophia Emmett asks, what's your favourite part of your job?
That would take a long time to answer. The favourite part of my job is I'm never doing the same thing twice, and if I am, it's with different people in a different place at a different time. The variety of my job is never ending. Some of the things you get asked to do well, damn right crazy, some of them, but a lot of them are fun, you know, and the rehearsal or the training process that we go through to get an end result can sometimes be really rewarding. You start off with that, oh, we're going to do that. And then after a week later, you're like halfway through it and you're like, oh, I can see how that's going to work now. Do you know what I mean? It's sometimes you're looking at a brick wall and you've got no idea how you're going to get out of it. And again, coming to the end, that sense of achievement that you get out of, yay, great shot, and director's happy, and there's nothing better.
Amazing. So, Dave, we're going to have to bring this, sadly, to a bit of a conclusion. So I'm just going to throw a couple of quick ones at you. Wendy Wong Chang asks, how do you make the windows shatter in the Niffler scene?
Hi, Wendy. So that's all sugar glass. That's all glass made out of sugar, effectively. Company in Shepperton Studios does very, very well making sheet sugar glass. And if I told you I spent £60,000 on sugar glass for that scene, that's about where we were. £60,000 is what was spent on sugar glass just for that sequence.
Wow.
Yeah. So a lot of rehearsals, a lot of time with stunts, in and out, smashing glass. Yeah. It's one of my favourite things is to smash glass.
And that's just in your spare time, Dave?
I've done a lot. It's funny, I should have sent you, I've got a fantastic video of a good friend of mine at a prop company that we were testing for World War Z. And he's testing on a screen, and it was obviously a lot harder than he expected it to be. And it's an incredibly funny video. But I've got some great footage of glass breaking. It's a wonderful thing.
Adam Duff asks, who's your favourite person or actor to work with? Have you worked with someone who's been great from your point of view?
Ray Winston's good. I like Ray, very down to earth. I just finished working with George Clooney. He's very nice, very down to earth. I'm very into people who are grounded, and unfortunately, a lot of the stars aren't necessarily of that ilk. Who am I else? Pete Postlethwaite was an absolute dream. I mean, what a lovely, lovely man. Oliver Reed, probably the highlight of my career was being in a small room with a cameraman, a boom op, me, Oliver Reed, and Russell Crowe.
Gladiator.
In Gladiator, yeah, in Morocco, and Oliver Reed could not stand on Russell Crowe. Let me tell you that. I've got many stories about the conflict between those two that I can't necessarily tell now, but being in that room, watching Oliver just give it to Russell, in effect, for want of a better way, for the best way he knows how to, in an acting way. You watch that scene on Gladiator again where he's talking to him and the belly of the beast and all that. I'm getting goosebumps now, reliving that scene.
Amazing. Okay, so we're going to sort of finish up by, obviously we are Young Film Academy. Our mission is to help and inspire young filmmakers who otherwise don't really, they want to break into the industry, they want to develop skills. Yeah. And I think that we'll have people watching today from across the world who might well be thinking this is an area of the film industry that I don't really even knew existed. I mean, they'll be aware of it vaguely, but listening to you today, it will have opened their eyes to kind of the mechanics and the sort of the real detail work that goes into creating these sort of sequences. So if there's a young person out there who's looking at and hearing you and thinking that is my dream job, yeah, and they are 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 years old, what kind of thing what skills do they need to build to stand a chance of getting into your industry?
The first thing I would do is I would learn a trade that I can fall back on. That for me is absolute paramount. It's the very first thing you should be doing, is learning a trade that you can pick work up casually at any given moment. Because I was brought up in a time where there was not a lot of work around, and you went from job to job. So when there's no film work around, you need to have something else to do, number one. Number two, make sure that job has something to do with special effects so that you can become very, very good at it. Because, that's important, that you're good at this one trade, whether it be a fabricator welder, whether it be you're an expert in CAD design with SolidWorks, or that's incredibly important now that you're able to understand the CAD world. All of our stuff is designed on computer. Every rig that you see on camera now, every single rig, without doubt, will have a CAD design behind it, will have a design folder behind it. Yeah, that's another story. So that CAD design, having a trade is very important. Not coming in too early, I think, is a good thing. You come in too early, you don't know anything else. You need to know that it's a big, bad, horrible world out there, and what we do, we're not gifted. We're lucky. If you manage to get into the film industry and you do well, you're going to have a fantastic life. You're going to be a lucky individual. So you've got to have something to compare that to. If you come into the film industry straight away, you don't know anything else. So my first advice would be go into the outside world for a couple of years, learn a trade, make sure you're diligent at it, learn to take criticism. It's one of the things that I, as a supervisor, see the young uns that come into my workshop. They don't take criticism well. You need to learn that criticism is a form of learning. You may not see it at the time, but you're obviously doing something wrong. Otherwise, you wouldn't be criticised. Take it as a lesson. Take it as a plus. Don't take every cloud's got its silver lining, you know. And the silver lining is those are lessons that you should be learning. So again, take criticism as a plus. I think that's a massive thing that I see lacking in the young uns coming in today. And don't live your life too fast. Enjoy the grind. Enjoy getting up for work every day. Enjoy going to work I love going to work every day, you know. And I'm not always searching for, when I do this, I'm going to be happy, and when I do that, I'm going to be happy. I'm happy every day. You know, there's not a day that I wake up and go, oh, I've got to go to work. That's a lie. There are days that I have like that, because every job has those occasions, but they're so far and few between. Because I've it's important to be resilient in life and take the criticism well.
Yeah.
So,
and in terms of actual skills, I think you mentioned before, it's sort of, you know, people with a background in engineering, hydraulics, pneumatics, pyrotechnics, you know, welding. It's quite practical, isn't it? I mean,
any of those physical attributes, an expert in. I'll tell you, a big one at the moment is hydraulics. If you can go and work in a hydraulics factory, for hydraulic fitters, or just learn about hydraulic processes, hydraulic design, that's a really sought after trade in my industry. Someone who's got the ticket, someone who's done the correct course, who's qualified, you'll be sought after. That would be so the welding, the pneumatics kind of falls with hydraulics, kind of hand in hand. They're air and they're air and they're oil. They're doing the same thing. One's air, one's oil. Electronics, motors, the electronics world. That's another trade that you can then fall back on if there's no work in the film industry. You know, if you've got a qualified electrician, great trade. You know, you fall into our world, as long as you're not electrician and you're electrician, then you'll do well in special effects. You know.
Well, I think that is such a great answer, because I think what it's showing is that for so many of our young people, you know, to hear about kind of skills in the real world that are so translatable in very practical ways, that for those who are practically engineering minded, yours is where the artistry comes in and those two things mesh. So, yes. Dave, thank you so much for sharing your experience with us all today. Thank you very much indeed.
It's been a pleasure. Been an absolute pleasure.
So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Funds raised from this Q&A will be donated to the NHS COVID-19 charity appeal. So thank you very much, Dave, for making that possible. Next week, guys, we have another amazing session. Next week is with Kate Hopkins, who's the Emmy Award-winning sound designer for natural history programs, including Our Planet Blue Planet, Frozen Planet, all the David Attenborough incredible nature series. She is responsible for all of the sound design work that goes behind those, an often overlooked area of those incredible natural history programs. So that is next Thursday at the same time at 5. The following week, we have Alan Gilmore, who is the art director of the Harry Potter films, pretty much all of them. And we're very, very lucky to have Alan with us to discuss building sets. He's also been responsible for designing many of the studio tours that happen. So we will be delving into the world of Harry Potter. After that, we have Christian Hadell. So for any actors amongst you, he will be talking about what it is to be an actor's agent. He represents some of the biggest names in show business, and he'll be discussing getting an agent, what that means. And then we have Natalie Wickens, who is a prosthetics and hair and makeup artist from Star Wars, who'll be talking about working on Chewbacca, and many other iconic Star Wars characters, and more to be announced. So guys, do check in either on Young Film Academy's Instagram or Facebook. Sign up to subscribe to those and get updates, or do look at the Young Film Academy website and you can book your tickets there. Meanwhile, guys, we obviously are doing lots of work with young filmmakers during this time, helping them through a series of clubs and courses. We've got a course for young people to make films coming up in half term, so do check out the website. So thank you very much for joining us. We hope you have a lovely evening, and thank you very much indeed, Dave. Thank you. Stay safe. Goodbye.
Great. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.